I'm not sure who's waiting for it either, so we'll move ahead. Would like to thank the organizers for the invitation to come here and speak today. I have been in Mexico City only once before. I think I was in the same hotel, and I think this is the same place that I was the last time I was here, so it's like coming home again. I love it. My topic today is Strategic Planning and Information Knowledge Society. And even prior to beginning my presentation, I just want to note that I speak from the viewpoint of a faculty member in one of the largest publicly supported library institutions in the United States, and that would cover my thinking and my speaking and what I do here. That being said, I think most of us view strategic planning very much like we view going to the dentist. We really don't want to do it, but if we don't do it, things can only get worse. My strategic plan for the next few minutes is to briefly explore past planning methods, to talk about some new tools available to us for planning, and review a few of the new approaches to planning as well. Oops. I'm sorry. I'm better than this. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. The process of traditional business-based strategic planning, because this is where strategic planning came from. This is not something that universities and libraries made up for themselves. It comes from the business world. And what it basically does is it defines an organization's mission. What are we doing? It establishes measurable goals in support of the mission. Okay, how can we tell what we're doing? And it implements strategies to attain those goals. And in that process, it aligns resources to support those efforts. And generally, it's employed as a large, iterative, formalized, and periodic process. So it's not something that's taken lightly, and it's not something that is done terribly quickly. How many here have been involved in the strategic planning process? Okay. All right. We know how slow it can be when it wants to be. So we can identify several shared goals in strategic planning. Especially in libraries. One of the things we want to do as librarians when we plan strategically is we want to maintain a high level of quality learning. That's why we're here, basically. We want to emphasize the place of the library at the core of the institution, or in the very heart of the institution. This was mentioned earlier. This is very important for libraries and librarians to emphasize when they are doing their strategic planning. And this works to elevate the profile of the library and the profession, because it's not just the library that we want people to pay attention to. We want people to pay attention to the professionals who work there and understand what it is and why we do it. And along those lines, strategic planning provides us with a wonderful basis and a great argument for funding. There's sort of a side benefit to strategic planning, and that is to educate our users and administrators about the importance of the library in a technology-based information environment in society. Sometimes that's slightly overlooked by some of our administrators, that not only has technology changed, but libraries have changed, and education is also changing along with it. So these are the common activities in strategic planning. You develop a mission and vision statement. You engage in an environmental scan. You look at the world around you. You do a SWOT analysis, which includes strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to the organization, that being the library. And frequently you develop scenarios. You know, this is what might happen if that happens. And then finally, you start developing tools for assessment so that you can determine what progress you are making in your strategic plan towards the goals of your strategic plan. The common components of the traditional plan, am I going to? No. Vision, mission statement, value statement, strategic direction, activities assessment. But strategic direction requires deep knowledge of future trends. And this is particularly important because libraries do not operate in a vacuum. We all are very aware of the knowledge explosion, the technology explosion. Let me tell you, we're aware of globalization and the imposition of business models on academia. This, our keynote speaker, our opening speaker, spoke a little bit about something sort of like this, but I would sort of argue that depending upon your institution, especially in the United States, more and more the state government is trying to apply business models to education, and that carries over into what we're doing in libraries. So let's identify a few of the trends in the information and knowledge society that affect us when we're doing strategic planning. Well, yeah, let's just look into the crystal ball and see if we can find out what the future is going to be. How can we do this? Where can we go? Well, there are probably hundreds of reports, thought pieces, articles in journal magazines, scholarly articles, and various other materials that purport to be able to see into the future. And I do have to say, last week, October 21st, we had a great deal of fun in the States. I don't know how widespread it was, looking at the movie Back to the Future to see how many things had come true. And being from Illinois, and Champaign's just south of Chicago, I will say the Cubs were still playing baseball until that evening ended. But we don't have hoverboards yet, so it's pretty unfortunate. But if we look at the various things that are available to us, there are three that I think are really important. And again, I'm telling you this from somebody who sits in the States. There are three reports I have seen that I really, really, really like in their approach to what we should think about when we plan strategically. The first is the IFLA Trend Report. I was not involved in the writing of that report, but I have, since it was published, been very involved in trying to raise awareness of that report. There's also a basic website from the American Library Association called Trends from the Center for the Future of Libraries. And then, strangely enough, it was mentioned already, there is the Horizon Report, which is published and put together by the New Media Consortium and EDUCAUSE, and has been since about 2004. So I thought I would just briefly go over some of these reports to give you an idea of what's contained in them and how they can be used to assist you not only in strategic planning that is long-term, but in looking at where you are and where you want to go, even if you aren't involved in the strategic planning process. The IFLA Trend Report identified 5 trends. And incidentally, Latin America, and especially Vietnam, have been very, very involved in some fine work in analyzing these trends. And there were meetings, two regional conferences for Latin America, and they included contributions from Mexico, from Spain, Costa Rica, Colombia, Ecuador, and Venezuela. And the views of representatives from libraries, library schools, museums, IFLA, and the government were all included in these reports. And they can be found in that second link, trendsifla.org/news. And I would really encourage anybody who wants to look at regionally specific input about the IFLA trends to go there and read them. They are not short. They're both over 200 pages long each, but they're very, very good. So developed by people involved in the information society, not necessarily librarians. Headquarters at IFLA pulled together people from Google, from Intel, from various non-governmental organizations, from some government agencies, and from some education groups like EDUCAUSE to talk about the larger information environment. And these are the 5 trends that they see or saw coming at us. And some of them are already here, of course, and some are not far away. Number 1, increasing access to information. And what this will require of libraries is to become more closely involved in developing digital literacy, but also general literacy. And I think that relates a lot to what was mentioned earlier about critical thinking skills. First you have to get the information, and then once you get there, what good is it? How can it be used? Is it correct? Is it even nearly correct? So we have to get involved in the process of developing online literacy for our users. Trend 2, online education is going to be greatly increased and effective in the future. And that is going to change relationships within the library. It will change relationships with our faculty members, and it will also change our relationships with our students. I already work with a couple of online classes where you don't really get that close, raise your hand and I'll answer it kind of interaction. You don't have somebody walking into your office at office hours, as was mentioned before. But there are ways to enable the student and the faculty member to sort of mirror that relationship in the digital world. The third issue, the third trend that was identified, was related to privacy and data protection. I know we have quite a bit of discussion coming up on big data, and privacy and data protection are really growing areas of concern on many levels. At my institution, we're currently working to develop a privacy statement for our users that is web accessible, so they know that when they put certain information in for Elsevier journals, it's different than when they check out a book from us, because we won't tell anybody what they're doing, although Elsevier might for a price. It also relates to the concept of big data. In my institution, we are doing a lot of web development for a federated search engine. So a lot of work is being done with log analysis to see what are the searches that are being made, how successful are they, where can we point people if they're not getting the right results, sort of like Google. And one of the questions was, what do we do with this data? And it is quite big. The next issue was hyper-connected societies. And one of the things that was recognized is that the web is going to allow for a lot of much larger groups to have their voices heard. This tends to be more politically related, but it's important nonetheless. Smaller social groups, smaller ethnic groups will finally have a voice in the larger area, region, or country, or nation. And the web is very, very good for them. And finally, new technologies will provide both challenges and advantages to the way our work is done. Well, we already know that, I'm sure. It's very clear to us that new technologies provide us new capabilities, but also provide us new challenges. The second report that I just want to go over briefly is the ALA Center for the Future of Library Trends. These are things that have been identified by librarians in the United States as issues that are emerging and will affect libraries. And this is both academic and public libraries. So you will see things like drones. How are drones going to affect us? Well, the delivery of goods and services, one thing, the concept of privacy something else. So this particular document, again, is online, and it goes through each of these issues, and it defines them, it discusses the topic, and then it provides things like notes and references related to the specific topics. And they've generally been categorized under society, technology, education, environment, politics and government, economics, and demographics. The Horizon Report is one of my favorite things ever. I love to read this report. It goes back to 2004, and each of the issues, it talks about the timeline to adoption, 1 year or less, 2 to 3 years, 4 to 5 years. And if you go back through the older reports, you'll be amazed at how accurate they were. It just blows me away. But if you look, this year there was higher education, 2015, and academic libraries, 2015. There have also been regional reports. One in 2004, 2005 was for Australia and New Zealand, and there was one in 2010 for Latin America, which I'm sure you might want to go look at and see how much that was talked about in there has actually come to fruition. But the reports lay out these timelines. And in this year, higher education and the addition for academic libraries include several predictions that are shared between the two, including issues related to technology in the classroom and to makerspaces. This is rather new. In the States, makerspaces are probably more prevalent in public libraries than they are in academic libraries. But we have a new design center coming online, which is not part of the library, but is actually part of the academic mission to pull the engineers in to work with the social scientists and the applied life study scientists. So it's something in the future. And then the thing with my library, I was looking at this and I'm going, well, holy cow. My library has been working on location intelligence so that people can walk into our stacks and find what they're looking for. And that's closely related to wearable technology, bring your own device, and the Internet of Things, as well as information visualization. So just looking at those three reports, you sort of see the challenges to the traditional strategic planning process. This is it right here. We are no longer hierarchically based as far as access to information. We are now all about networks. That's who we are. That's what we do. It's no longer a top-down process. The impact of information technology and its intended distribution of knowledge is pushing organizations to become more interconnected and flatter and control command structure. The explosion of available information mitigates the possibility of a central focus where all information is collected. I know that I have people working on location devices for the main stacks. I don't always know who they are. I don't always know where they're coming from. I don't always know what they're doing. So it's harder for people in leadership positions, the dean, the associate deans, the department heads, to be able to see what is going on at all times, because so much, quite frankly, is always going on. And this sort of is reflected in this. It's sort of product versus praxis. The strategic plan is a product. It's very static, it's very hierarchical, but strategic planning, per se, is very dynamic and very much based upon our networks. We do have some alternative means of doing strategic planning. It gets the same job done. It's called something else, and the process is different. But the alternative approaches include strategic framework. There's also grassroots strategic planning. There's SOAR versus SWOT. And there's agile planning and the Scrum approach. Okay, strategic framework provides direction for the organization. It identifies service objectives. Okay, and then it identifies the user activities. that are no longer valuable or useful to the organization. In my shop, we're always talking about what can we do that we're doing now better and what can we stop doing. And I think this is particularly useful to identify. The framework approach is often informed by grassroots strategic planning, where the process openly engages all of the employees from all aspects of the organization to participate and make their opinions known. And this begins generally with an all-staff retreat where ideas are solicited from everybody, and usually anonymously. Post-it notes, note cards, and any other format can be used for submission of ideas. And sometimes they're elicited before the retreat so that they can be used. And people can talk about projects that they as individuals or groups would like to engage in. If they could do anything in the library, what would they do? And you'd be amazing, fantastic ideas that come from people who are just sort of off in the distance and you don't even realize that they're that engaged in what's happening. Then a World Cafe process can be employed to discuss the identified concepts, and the result is an all-inclusive brainstorming session that provides fodder for future action and service delivery improvement that at the same time informs the decision maker about the resources that can be made available, the human resources that can be made available. And there is buy-in from all quarters in something like this. The SWOT process has been changed to the SOAR process. Instead of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, there's much more positive emphasis put on it. It's now strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. And appreciative inquiry is used. It's a much more positive outlook on strategic planning than in the past. And then, last but not least, the one that I've identified here, there are many others, is agile planning and scrum development. This comes to us from the area of project planning and development in IT, information technology. And it's particularly effective in moving discrete pieces of the plan forward. The process places a great deal of emphasis on cross-training, cross-functional teams, focused on specific goals, and it was used at my institution to recreate the library gateway, which is the entryway to all of our resources, basically, anymore. And it's modeled after rugby. We have a scrum master, and he's the overall, he or she is the overall leader, facilitator, make sure that the resources are available for getting work done. The scrum team is generally a multi-person team, and the leader is assigned based on the specific tasks that need to be accomplished for their specific expertise. The product owner is responsible for the final result. So it's another way of looking at things. I am quickly going to finish by reading the quotations. I'll let you read them, because we've had quotations today. Most leadership strategies are doomed to failure from the outset, as people have been noting for years. The majority of strategic initiatives that are driven from the top are marginally effective at best. People in any organization are always attached to the obsolete, the things that should have worked but did not, the things that once were productive and no longer are. More positively, with a clever strategy, each action is self-reinforcing. Each action creates more options that are mutually beneficial, and each victory is not just for today, but for tomorrow. And then my favorite from Yogi Berra, if you don't know where you're going, you are certainly likely to end up somewhere else. So thank you very much for your